Okay, here we have our mask blank. This is our typical mask blank. This one is particularly ugly. It never got finished. So we're going to go ahead and demonstrate what's the next step. So first of all, I don't like this dent right here. I'm going to go ahead and pop that back out. And so that's one of the things you want to make sure you take care of. That's one of the reasons you want to make a durable, strong mask with many layers. This mask has a lot of bumps and mistakes, but it's a great example for a demo because it's the worst case scenario. So right here we have a really ugly spot. There's holes, there's big dents, there's stuff flaking off of it. So what we want to do is we want to pick a place to make our head hole. And that's our head. We got to be able to get our heads through here somehow, and I don't think they're going to fit in here. So here we have our popped balloon. I don't recommend popping your balloon until after you draw on a space for your head to go in. So usually what I recommend is picking the ugliest or the weakest spot on the mask or a combination of the two. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so here we have a hole. We want to make sure we get rid of that. We've got some ugly stuff right here. We may be able to push that back out. I don't know. Yeah, that worked pretty good. This is pretty weak right here. So I'm going to say that probably the worst spot, we got a really thin spot and we got a hole right here and we got a bunch of ugly stuff. So I'm going to make this the spot we cut out. So what I want to do, I want to come somewhere right around here. I want to find the center of my mask. Something like that. And then I'm going to draw a line across it. And we're going to leave a little bit of space for our heads. So we want to leave the back of our mask. We're just going to cut out an opening for our mask. And once again, I'm using a mechanical pencil because I want to show everybody that even with the non-optimal supplies for this project, you can still do it. So let's say something about like this, and I'll come down on this side. And so we're gonna end up with something like this, but I just wanna make sure my line is correct. So I'm gonna hold it out at arm's length and see if it's straight. Okay, so if I hold this thing at arm's length, when I'm up close, I can't tell if it's straight or not. I don't have enough perspective. But when I hold it out at arm's length for myself, I can start to see if it's straight. So, and see if it's the same on both sides. I'm gonna go ahead and narrow this head hole up a little bit. I think I may have made it too broad over here. And that's okay. I'll just put an X right here, means I don't want to cut on that line. Now I can see both of these at the same time. Looks pretty good. Looks like they kind of slant down evenly, but we do have an issue. If you see, this side looks quite a bit lower than this side. So what I want to do is correct that. No big deal. I'll just split the difference here. And make sure I end up at the same spot. Now, they look like they're the same height. They taper down the same amount. Looks pretty good. So I'll make sure I go all the way over here to the bottom. And then I also want to make sure I cut out all this trashy stuff here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead, maybe go a little higher, maybe something like this. And try to make, maybe even I'll come out a little more because I want to make sure I reach over here on this side and I want them to be symmetrical. Okay, I'm just going to barely catch this. So the paper fragments can also snag your mechanical pencil lead and break it. Like I said, I'm just using the mechanical pencil because I want to use the suboptimal stuff and show you that no matter what you're working with at home, you can still do this. A good eraser will help you to not get confused on which lines to cut. This is not a good eraser. You can always cross it out though. All right, so now I'm looking pretty equal. We want to try to get this as equal as we can. That's the goal for this. You see how I keep having to pop dents out of my mask? Because it's not a very strong mask. And that's a shame. That's a shame, because it makes things more difficult for us, right? All right. You know, now that I'm looking at this thing, let's see, one more time. Let me double check myself one more time before I cut. Now I think I might have gotten a little too high. So I'm going to come down here somewhere in between. Now, I'm using my thumbs too to help me realize where these things are ending. Now that looks a lot better to me. I'm accepting that. So that's pretty nice. We want these things to be close to perfect as we can get them. Now it's time to cut out the hole for our heads to go in that we just drew the outline for. All right, we are ready now to cut it out. So I'm just going to follow the line, try to cut really nice straight lines here. Remember which lines I want to keep and which ones I don't. So it's very important. Another thing we want to work on is if you do a pointed corner on one side of your mask, don't do a rounded corner on the other. Do pointed on both sides so that it has unity. I'm going to get that started so I can cut that a little easier. All right. We don't need that balloon anymore. Okay, so now we have a nice little opening for our mask, for our head to go in. It's not a mask if you can't wear it. And now I just want to trim this up a little. So if I do that, it's not the end of the world if I make a mistake. These scissors are exceedingly hard to use. They need to be tightened. So once again, I'm working with suboptimal stuff here. Let's see if I can't come from the other side though and do a better job. All right, so I've got a little tear here. That's perfect. If that happens, we can always lay a little piece of mache over that and make it good as new whenever we're getting ready to wrap up our mask. We don't want to worry about it now. We'll worry about the next time we mache. Now that I've got this done, I want to find where the center of my mask is so I can use the back of my mask to help me decide. All right, now we've got it done. We're ready for our eye holes. So that's a fun thing as well. Okay, so now we're ready for the next stage. We're going to find the eye holes of our mask. So one of the things we're going to have to do, we're going to have to put this on, and then we're going to have to use our fingers to try and find where we feel our eyes are at. So this is actually, a lot of people, when they try to just guess and draw their eyes on, I would say 99% of the time they guess wrong. And that's a pretty safe estimate. For one thing, you'll see that your eyes are not quite where you think they are on your head. So a lot of us think our eyes are at the top of our head, but they're actually not. Our eyes are at the center of our head. Okay, so if I take, so you can see my eyes are about in the center of my head. And we think they're up higher because our hairline tricks us. So we see this hairline here and we think, oh, well, my eyes are only this far up, away from my hairline, so that's the top of my head, but it's not. Your hair grows down your head, and so that's a trick. Your eyes are actually dead center in the middle of your head, and so you'll always end up putting them wrong. Even if you know this, you're probably going to put them wrong compared to actually finding where your eyes are. Believe it or not, you can actually feel pretty close to where your eyes are with your senses. So what we want to do, and we want to make sure we don't use two fingers. So when you do two fingers like this, and try to do it, for some reason one goes up real high and one goes real low, and then you end up messing up. So make a peace sign like this, and that's how we're going to do it. So I'll show you, I'll demonstrate how this works. So I'm going to put this on. Make sure it's kind of centered and straight where I want it, because this is going to be the way I want to wear it. And as you see, I've got this little piece here we left on. It holds the mask on my head without doing any extra work. So now it is time to actually find my eye holes. All right. So what I want to do now is I want to make sure that my mask is on right, that it's on straight, and now I want to make my peace sign and find where my eyes are located at. I think it's right here. So what I want to do is I want to mark those on real quick. All right. It doesn't have to be perfect marks. They're just indicators. So now our eyes are not exactly where most of us would try to put them. And you even notice they're a little off center. I thought one was a little lower than the other. They're not. No, I don't know if they are or not. But usually that happens. That really does happen regardless of whether your eyes are crooked or not. You know, you might be off a little. Like I said, the mask is about this far off your face, and you're just kind of feeling with your senses and about where your eyes are. You're pretty accurate. But you might get one a little high and one a little low. So when that happens, you just split the difference. So we'll look at that in just a second. All right, we're back to our workspace here. We're going to take a look at our balloon and make sure we've got it perfect, okay? So we see our eyes are kind of, for one thing, I drew them a little bit. Here, let me see if I can straighten up my mask. That's part of it. My mask is rolling up. Like I said, you want as many layers of mache as you can get so that your mask doesn't do stuff like that. Okay, so this is somewhere around where we need to be. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw seeker lines, okay? So I'm going to try to divide my mask directly in half. As best I can. All right, so that's my best guess at what halfway down the mask will be. So when I look at it, it looks pretty good. Especially when I feel how the head hole works in the back. It looks like my line tapers a little this way, so let's try and fix that. So I'm going to move it over just a hair. And you want to get all the things corrected now instead of trying to fix it later. So now let's see, is that more like it? Yes, that looks like it's pretty well good. We might get off a little tiny bit here up at the top, but it doesn't matter. We're not going to be using this line up here this high. So what really matters is if we get the line right around in this region. All right, looks pretty good to me. Let me feel the back of the hole. Yeah, something about like this. So now what I want to do is split the difference between my eyes. And I want to just basically try to draw a straight line across. Actually, I did pretty good on getting my eyes where they go. I guess my eyes are perfect after all. Alright, so let's see. That's about right. Now what I'll take and do is I will... Usually your eyes are about an eye width apart, so if you actually take and measure your eyeball, and I'll do that now, you can actually come here and see, well, my eye holes need to start somewhere around in here. So I'm going to do a guess off of that. I'm going to say something like this, and then I'm going to measure that line and make sure the other side is perfect. So I'm going to use my pencil as a measuring stick, right? And I'm going to move over here and mark it. All right, and so now I've got two perfectly equal sides for my eyes. My eyes are not going to be over to one side of my head or the other. They're going to be really nice. And then I'm going to draw out an eye shape. Let's say I want something pretty simple here. What I can do now is I can measure the eye I made already that I like and duplicate it. So I'm going to go from this line to where the eye ends. And so I'll do the same thing over here. I'll measure off of my pencil and mark it. And then I can also measure how high it is. And And right now I'm not going off the eraser, I'm going off the top of the eraser, okay? And now I can actually duplicate this with a pretty good bit of accuracy. All right. Now my eyes, I think I may have made it a little thick here. Let's try to clean that up just a bit. Let's see if we did okay. So let's make a parallel line here. So let's try to keep these two lines perfectly equal with each other as we go. Just test out what we did. So we're going pretty good. That bump kind of messes us up. Looks like we're right where we need to be. All right. I'd say that's about right. Now I can do the bottom half of my eye. So let's say I want to do something like this. And I want to duplicate it. So I can measure. Let's use my eraser this time. I'm going to measure with my pencil. I put my pencil right here on the line, and then I put my thumb down here on the bottom of the line. And then I can carry that over here and say that. Let's just double check it, make sure I didn't lose something there. No, still pretty good. All right, so now I can also say, well, my eye dips right here and changes directions. So let's see how far that is. That's about like from here to here. So I can draw another line here. So my line will dip until it gets to right here. Then it will round out and go to there. All right, so now I'm getting very symmetrical eyes because I'm measuring out all of these details, okay? All right, so now what if I want some kind of like, what if I want some kind of evil eyes, all right? So I want to do something like that. I can definitely do that. Once again, I can take a line and measure how far it is. So we want our eye to end somewhere around here, our point of our eye. And how far is it? So let's do a line going down. So from the point of the eye to that line we drew, not that far. So now we know what to duplicate. So measure it over on this side. All right, so now it needs to end somewhere around there. And so now we know it starts right here in the corner and goes up to the point, but no further than that. And then we know it leads back down into here. So now we have our very symmetrical eyes. We want our eyes to be as close to perfect as we can get them. So we want to make sure, we want to double check, we want to measure as often as we can in as many ways as we can. Oops, our mask bends right there. All right, so let's see if we did it right. Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good. This is a little low. It gets a little low right here, so we'll raise up our mark a little bit here. So our original measurement was right. All right, so here we go. Now we got some very symmetrical eyes. These eyes should be almost perfectly identical because we measured them so much. There may be a few things, so like now I need to look and double check. So right here, I was guessing from here to here, right? I knew the length. It looks like this is pointier and thinner. So I want to come back in here and make this one pointier and thinner, right? All right, now I think we're getting somewhere. Also look at this triangle I made compared to this one. So I think this actually came up a little too soon as well. All right, now that we got those little things fixed, I think we're ready to cut out our eye holes. Wow, amazing, right? So we don't want this thing to have one eye, low eye and one high, right? You don't want to be something looking a little weird. You want these to be very symmetrical. For our next step, we're going to need something called an X-Acto knife. So as you see, I have the blade here turned upside down. This right here is the adjustment. So I twist that, and that loosens up this blade. Then I can turn it around to where I can use it, and then I'll tighten this up. So this is the fatal flaw of the X-Acto knife, in my opinion. It's right here where you hold it. So while you cut with it, you end up loosening the blade all the time. So that happens probably, I don't know, probably out of a class of 20 something, maybe 25 students. This is going to happen to about 5 of you at least. You just need to put your blade back in and tighten it back up. Just be careful. This thing is razor sharp. So these things are razor sharp. You don't sharpen them when they're completely dull. You just loosen it up when they're too dull to use. Pull it out, throw the blade away, and I can get you another blade. And then you tighten it up, okay? But the great thing about an X-Acto knife is that it is actually more close to drawing than any other kind of cutting that I can think of. So this is really, really nice. And what I usually do, I like to get my tip of my blade right there on the line and get it going in the direction the line goes, so it's parallel with it. And then I wiggle it back and forth until I get a cut. So I don't want to press down on it too hard. See how it's deforming my mask a little? And if once it goes through, it may go through all at once. That's why I turn the blade the right way. So we only cut where we want to cut. One of the things I would say about using these, always make sure you know where your fingers are. And that sounds silly, but it's kept me with all my digits all this time. So it works really well, and that's whether I'm using a torch or a saw or a knife or anything. I'm always mindful of where my fingers are at in relationship to that blade. And so we want to be very careful. So right now I'm going to put my hands under here, but I can feel my fingertips right here, so that's safe. So I always want to make sure I'm being safe. And on these eye holes, I'll just saw up and down very carefully so I make sure I stay right on that line where I want to be. So I'll fast forward this part. Okay, so that's one eye cut out. You see how I was able just to follow those lines so perfectly? If you're in a place where you can really bear down with this knife and the blade's really sharp, you don't have to saw with it. But on a mask like this, it's hollow on the inside, so I recommend you saw a little just so you don't accidentally hit a thick spot in the mask and then it gives way and then you cut right off in the wrong direction. Once again, I'm going to line up my blade. Wiggle it in the direction we want to go. I'm mindful of where my fingers are so that when this goes through, I know I won't hit them. See, that time it went all the way through, but I lined up my blade with the line, so it didn't matter. Now I just want to carefully cut it. And voila, we have our eye holes completely cut out. Really nice. We may have to come undent our mask a little. We got a lot of anomalies with this mask, a lot of imperfections, so I'm not worried about it too much. If your mask comes out really messed up like this, I would say try to incorporate the wrinkles into your design. So like big flaps of paper like that, that'll have to be covered up, because that just ruins the illusion. But these right here, they look almost like blood vessels or wrinkles or something like that. So you could incorporate these that look like blood vessels into your design somehow, make it look like it was done on purpose. So if you have like some kind of monster, that might work. If you're doing some kind of really futuristic space helmet or something, then all of a sudden that's not gonna do as well. Okay, so that is how we cut out our hole for our head to go in, and that is how we cut out our eyes. So let's test it out and see now, can I see through this mask? All right, we're ready to try out our mask, and let's see if this will work. See if I can squeeze my big head into here one more time. All right, as you can see, my eyes line up really well. We still got to fix this little flap right here, but a little paper mache, and it'll go a long way. Ah! Okay, so I hope that helps everyone. Real quick, before this demo ends, I've got a little paper mache here, and I will go through the process of fixing this. So here is a shaded sphere that I did for a demo the other day, just to show you that artists do not fall in love with their work. I'm going to rip this thing into shreds and use it for paper mache to fix my mask. Alright, so here we go. I'll put a few different sizes of mache here in this glue. We will correct our little goof that we made with those really ridiculous scissors. They're the kind of scissors that Edward Scissorhands had for fingers. I think I just need to tighten up the bolt right there. If I tighten up that nut, then it'll put more pressure on those blades, and then they'll cut a little better. Alright, so let's finish this up. Like I said, in your case, you wouldn't want to do this unless you're already paper macheing another area. We can go ahead and do that though, because I have paper mache readily available. I'm going to go ahead and soak this down a little bit so it becomes malleable and pliable. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put a few little strips of mache on it to make everything all better. We'll fix all of our little boo-boos. Did we fix your boo-boos? Okay, here we go. You know, all's well that ends well. You just want to make sure it wraps around so that you get it on both sides, and then it just really mends that tear. So this probably will happen to you at some point. I'm not going to say it will happen. It might happen to you. And now I want to fix some of these other little boo-boos too while I've got my mache out. So let's see what else we need to cover up while we're working. So this right here is a really hideous mess. I'm going to fix that. So who knows, I could turn this into a really nice mask. Here's a little booger. I don't know what the best thing to do would be for that. I think maybe just to slice it off and then go from there. So I'm going to take my little knife. And my blade here is really dull. Usually these things are razor sharp. Looks like this one needs a new blade, because this would have sliced right through here. Another thing, don't ever cut toward your hand. You see I'm holding it right here and cutting away from myself. It's very important. Now that I've got that done, I can come back over here, wipe off my excess glue on one of these little shreds here, and I can repair the mess up here. You'll never know there was a wrinkle there when I'm done. So I just want to go around and find all those. There's a lot of them on here. So this student didn't take the care that they needed to make a really beautiful mask. Here's a place where it's lifting up off the thing. We want to make sure we fix that. We don't want to ruin the effect. We don't want this thing to look like it's made out of paper. We want it to make it look like it's made out of really robust plastic, right? Because in a way it is. Like I said before, the paper is just there to hold the glue on until it dries. So can I fix every wrinkle on here right now for this demo? Maybe if I put it on fast forward. The key would be don't make these mistakes in the first place. A few, you know, I've already fixed like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 of these little errors. So if you messed up 5 times, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. But all these other times, that would take a lot. So I'm probably not gonna bother with all these. I might keep the wrinkle effect. I might cover them up and just say, you know, this is gonna be a very organic looking mask, kind of like our dude right here. So we'll keep the wrinkles, but the one thing is the wrinkle can't just lift up off and completely be exposed underneath, because that just ruins the effect. If you got a spot that just will not stop denting in, another thing you can do is you can soak your paper in your glue for a while, and then you can come fill this spot in. So I don't know how much this will actually take. You see I'm filling it in, and that's if your head will fit in with the dent. So if your head will fit in with the dent, you can fill that space in and then lay mache over the top of it. So let's see if we can't fix this up. All right, now you can't ever tell there was a dent there maybe. You know, I could have taken my time and done it even better if I wanted. Like I said, this is just a quick demo. This isn't going to go in any art museum anywhere. And now you can never tell that that was a dent there. We still got some wrinkles to cover up, but other than that, the mask is still looking really good. Once you sand it, some of these wrinkles will go away, but when you have this many wrinkles, you have an issue because it'll sand a hole right through your mask. So you don't want this many wrinkles, or you don't want them this big. So let's see if I can't make it look like it was done on purpose. Just cover these up and make them look like a wrinkly monster. Goes good with our evil eyes, right? So let's see if we can't fix this. This is going to be a little more tricky because it's right here on the edge of our mask. But if we play our cards just right, we'll get a nice little repair job right there.